Welcome back to the Neo Marketing Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the summertime blues.
Welcome to the weekly Neo Marketing Podcast, featuring one half of the Golden Goose C-Suite, Kyle Golding, and Pritch Pritchard, APR PRSA Fellow.
Kyle, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you today, Pritch?
Well, I'm hanging in. I'm still vertical, you know.
That's a good thing. It's a very
Exactly.
good thing.
It's summer, and things tend to slow down. People go on vacation.
True.
You welcome it because you might get a deep breath. You welcome it because you might get that extra time that you need to do the big project you've been thinking about doing for a while. So what happens?
A lot of thinking about it, not always a lot of doing.
Exactly. So, I mean, I have several projects. I know you've got several projects.
Yeah.
We thought, we'll knock this out. This is going to be great. Things will be quiet. People will leave us alone. And we still have them on the plate. So
some of them have been on the plate for a while.
So what's up? I mean, how do we help our viewing audience get out of that malaise? Because I bet we're not the only ones.
In fact, that would be my first piece of advice is we're not the only ones. This happens to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And I'm sure we can give everyone some tips today they can use. But if this is you too, if you're sitting home thinking, yeah, I do this, whether it's summer or winter or first of the year or your birthday or whatever it is, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
It's human nature a little bit. And even more so for entrepreneurs, self-brands, and people who are working for ourselves, because we don't have a boss that's making that demand list
Cracking
on you.
down on you.
And
Yeah.
so it becomes a little bit harder to buckle down sometimes.
You had some tips we talked about earlier about how you go about solving that particular problem. I think you ought to share those.
So step one is the most basic. We'll go straight to the beginning. And a lot of people say this all the time, and it sounds so basic, but it's so true. The easiest way to get out of bed in the morning is just put both feet on the ground.
Right.
You just have to mentally decide to do it. You have to commit. But you also have to find the habits, the routines
Right.
that allow you to commit.
Right.
And so, laying in bed means you're not going to commit to getting up and getting to work.
I have to roll around a little bit
Put
sometimes.
your feet on the ground, walk around, talk to the dog, pet the cat, whatever it is you need to do.
Brush your teeth.
Jump up, brush your teeth, right? Whatever it is you need to do to create a routine. When I first started the Golden Group, I was working out of the house, right? It was still an idea. We didn't know what we were doing yet. But I was working every day on formulating that, building our first website, etc., writing a lot of briefs, writing the business plan.
Right.
So I was working from home. My wife works out of the house. She would go to the office every day. And a couple of times she came home and she was like, did you even take a shower today? Because I was actually working my butt off because I just got right in there and started writing and researching and doing things, making phone calls. But I got into the habit of getting dressed every day, of creating a routine like I was going to the office.
Yeah.
That getting up, taking a shower, getting clean, getting
Yeah.
dressed, not shorts and a t-shirt, but putting something on where if I could drop a hat, I could go have a business meeting, and sitting in my office chair, proper, etc., and acting like I was in an office like we're in today.
Absolutely.
That habit got me into really good formulas of working on my business like it was my client.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I have to make an admission, going back to your getting out of bed analogy. When I was in college, I had to have 3 alarms at 3 different locations
I've got a friend
in
like
the
that.
room.
Yeah, I got a friend like that.
But when I got to the Navy, well,
They take care of that
they
for
take
you.
care of that for you. Except I still had trouble waking up. So my solution to that now is when the alarm goes off, I turn it off and I put my feet on the deck.
Absolutely.
And get up.
Yeah.
Because if I lay around, I'm going to, the alarm's off. So I'm just going to go back to sleep. Same thing, I think, in the office. I've got time, and at the schoolhouse. It's not really an office. I don't feel like
I love that you call the University of Oklahoma the schoolhouse.
Absolutely. I don't feel like I'm working when I'm there most of the time.
Well, that's good.
But I'm an email animal. You die by the sword.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go in and I look and I've got 400 messages that I have to go through in a day, it's so easy to get distracted going through all those stupid emails, most of which are dadgum e-newsletters that I could do without, right?
Right, yeah.
And the big projects off to the side.
Yeah.
So I have to just say, okay, none of these emails, nobody's going to die if I don't get to them. I got to get this thing done, and so I'll pull it over.
I make the excuse that I need to check my email. I need to follow up on social media, not just for things I want to know about on Twitter and Facebook, but for the Golden Group, for our clients, etc. I need to know what's happening in the world of business, politics, news, right? And of course, I need a cup of coffee or two.
Absolutely.
And so I try to convince myself that all these things I'm moving myself forward if I'm doing all these things at once.
Right.
Which is fine if you do it for a set period of time, let's say 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Right.
If you walk in the office at 8:15 and at 9:45 you're going for a third cup of coffee and you're still dealing with emails
right.
and you're playing with Twitter and also Instagram, because why not?
Right.
Well, now you're in trouble because you're behind in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So back to routine and creating habits of it's fine to do it, but only for a certain period of time, and
right.
act like a boss is watching you.
Right.
Is really the key. It was for me, anyways.
Yeah, the important thing is just to stay focused.
Right.
There are lots and lots of, I can't do it, but there are lots of articles out there about email in particular, and about how you should check it at specific times of the day,
right.
and not hawk it, continuously.
I heard that
Haven't
theory. I'm not
there.
a fan of it. I'm more of an attentive, like I'd like to
Yeah.
reply to, especially for clients. I like to get back as quick as possible. That sort of treat me like I want to be treated.
Right.
I like to. I don't want to wait around all day for you to email me at 4:00 because that's when you email.
Right.
So I don't do it to other people.
Right.
The other thing I do is I'm a big to-do list. I love
Yeah.
making to-do lists, and I make to-do lists the night before.
Right.
I'm a night owl.
Right.
I'm up all night long. And so I don't finish for the night until I make a to-do list for the next day and make sure my to-do list for the week is on track. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big fan of that. And it's helped tremendously, not just writing it down on a piece of paper or a
Right.
Post-it note, because I also have 5 bajillion Post-it notes everywhere.
Right.
I've got plenty of posts on Instagram on my desk. It's a mess because all the Post-it notes. But by putting them in one place, for me,
Right.
it's Evernote that's on my tablet.
Right.
But whether it's one sheet of paper, because I also work off notepads a lot
Right.
too, putting everything in one place and sort of how it correlates and trying to do 2 or 3 things at once and multitasking, keep things moving forward, at least helps me attempt to be more organized.
The last time I tried to do a to-do list, I ended up with 4 pages and I was still going. And so I do a to-do list in my head, and I take the top 3 priorities that I know I'm going to need to tackle that day, and that becomes my to-do list. If it's any longer
Prioritization is a great tool.
Absolutely. But if it's, if I've got more than 3 items
Right.
in my head, I'm not going to get to them. And so a 4-page list of things to do just freaks me out. So
Well, and I say to-do list. My to-do list are today, this week, the 2-week period,
Right.
the month, the quarter,
right,
and then biannually, and then for the year. I've got things on my to-do list that are by the end of the year.
Yeah,
And
a
I
year
know,
out.
and it's something that can wait till whenever I have time.
Right.
But if I don't put it on that list, it'll never ever happen.
Right.
And it still might not, but it has more likely to happen on the list than off the list.
that's a good point. Keeping track of them so that you don't forget about them.
Because
That's
you just got to keep a focus on the big
just
picture.
got to keep focused.
All the little things. It sucks to do
Yeah.
email every day.
Yeah.
It sucks to do your taxes. It
Right.
sucks to organize your receipts. I don't want to do any of that.
Right.
I don't want to do the accounting book work. I'm a creative. I don't care about that stuff. But it's going to happen.
Right.
And spending 3 days before I meet with my CPA to do it sucks. So
Right.
at the very least, once a quarter, if I can catch myself up because
Yeah.
I've been blowing it off, it's better than the end of the year.
Keeping your eye on the big picture and
Right.
making sure that you knock a little bit off at a time.
That helps.
It's much better than having to. Now, I don't take my own advice a lot, so I end up spending that 3 days head down, completely isolated from the world to finish the project, where I could have chipped away at it a little bit at a time.
I also have to remember the reward.
Yeah.
I could tell you right now, like we were talking before we started this morning, I was in a super great mood because I just finished a monster project for an awesome client. 6 months, actually more like 9 months worth of work.
Yeah.
Delivered it last week.
Yeah.
It felt so good. The endorphins were
Yeah.
going, right?
Absolutely.
So, one of my procrastination issues is I work on big projects, right? Sitting down to write a business plan is a task.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
It's hours, days, weeks, months.
Yeah.
But when it's finished, it's an awesome feeling.
Yep.
And when I get started and get rolling, man, I'm in it.
Yeah.
the first 5 minutes are the hardest part, but then the next 8 hours is easy because it's what I love to do. So, like putting your feet on the ground to get out of bed.
Yep.
If you just can get started, if you can get that first line written, if you can get that
Absolutely.
first task started and the ball rolling,
Absolutely.
then you get focused on what it's going to feel like when it's done, as opposed to whatever you were doing, the cup of coffee
Right.
you wanted to get, how
Right.
good that was going to taste instead. If you can get over that hump, and get on the backside of it,
Yep.
the endorphins kick in as to what it's going to be like to finish it,
Yep.
complete it, give it to the client, get the approval, all of that good stuff. Yep. So the good stuff is ultimately the only way I get the ball rolling.
Two things that occurred to me while you were talking. One is just put it on paper.
Step one,
Step
absolutely.
one, just get it on
You
paper.
can refine it later.
It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to
lose
be
it.
directly related. It's just now you've gotten a start.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing, and this is a lesson I learned while I was the PAO for the SEALs, one evolution at a time. We were trying to figure out who made it through Hell Week and
Right.
who didn't. And you couldn't tell because of physique. Short guys did better than big guys. Sometimes big guys did better. What we ultimately determined is totally unscientific, but what we ultimately determined was the folks who did one evolution at a time. Okay, we got to lift the log. That's it. I'm going to lift the log. Were more successful than those folks who went, holy crap, this is hour 1 of 6 days. So I really have taken that to heart.
Focus is a great tool.
Focus is a great tool. One evolution at a time.
Folks, if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it's good enough for you and your small business.
There you go. So that's what we got. Check us out online. We'd like to hear your comments, and give us a shout. Hope your day and week and quarters and year goes great. Until next time, ciao.
Good luck.